Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Your Corner here at the Four Corner Society. I am your host, and we're going through a series for Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition class spell tier lists. And so we've done all of the mages. We just sent out a video yesterday about the marksman, and we're going to go into the man at arms spell tier list today, as you can see on the screen. The reason why I'm doing this is I love turn-based strategy games. RPGs are literally a go-to for mine. They're definitely a big part of my life. And Baldur's Gate 3 is getting set to release the full access version on August 3rd on PC, and I plan on doing quite a bit of content about that game specifically. It's been in development for quite a long time, and there's a ton of hype around the game, and so I want to be able to deliver some really fun, engaging content, help you guys navigate that specific style of game, and to just give you a great, informative look about how I approach games and how I enjoy games and things like that. And it does help when you are given kind of like a template to follow, so that way you're not struggling, and it makes the playthrough easier for you in the long run. So without further ado, we're going to get into the man at arms spell tier list. Just to kind of preface this, the tier list, you can get 6 novice spells, 4 adept spells, and 2 master spells. Those are what you're allowed to have once you hit level 5 in your specific class archetype. And the way that the man at arms plays is there's 2 distinct levels of play with them. There is damage and there is tank. So I'm going to go with what I believe most of the time is the best build. Obviously, if you are building a tank, the tank spells will be stronger. And if you're building damage, the ones related to damage will be stronger. So take that with a grain of salt depending on your archetype or build that you're going for your specific man at arms character. Just I'm going to give you a generalization of which one I would actually prefer playing with, through playing over 110 hours of this game specifically. So without further ado, we're going to go right into it. The spell, all of the details of the spell will be shown up on the screen. I'm just going to go ahead and read it for you guys. First up is Battering Ram, which is this spell here. Rush forward in a straight line to a point far away, hitting all enemies in your path with XY slashing damage. So, in my opinion, this is S tier. It allows you to cover the distance, which is a main issue for the man at arms character, especially when you're wearing, heavy armor. Your character's actually slower. The fact that you have a spell that lets you close that gap, in addition with causing crowd control, is extremely important. This is definitely S tier for both style of builds, for damage and for tanking. Next up, we have the Crushing Fist, which is this spell here. An enormous fist smashes your enemy and knocks them down. It deals XY damage. I don't know why that was funny. An enormous fist, it just made me laugh. So this spell, I would also put this one, it has a 15-meter range, so the range on it is really good. It kind of lets you hit anything within your area. I would also put this in S tier because you're able to use it for both build styles. The One of the recurring themes that I have for these tier lists is the way Divinity Original Sin Combat works is you want to be proactive, not reactive. So if you're able to knock prone or CC the enemy encounter, it will make that encounter way easier. So any spell that basically gives you like an automatic CC or crowd control, it is essential in your build. The fact that this one does that and also does damage as well, that's a big plus in that aspect. So Crushing Fist, S tier. Next up, we have Cure Wounds. Cure Wounds is immediately heal yourself or a nearby ally for X vitality. I actually think this is a B tier spell when you run a specific party. Often, I would say you probably have 2 ranged and 2 melee fighters. So this spell specifically has a very short range, but if you have 2 fighters, or say you have a fighter and a rogue, they're probably going to be close enough to where the fighter can heal them or heal yourself. I would say oftentimes people will run a Hydrosophist mage to be able to heal their party members or do a mass heal and things like that to cover all of your healing needs, because I think they're extremely important. But this is a great way to kind of relieve some of the burden from that Hydrosophist character to heal yourself. So I would put it in the B tier, and you can also heal your fellow combat, like close quarter combat people, which is it's a nice little benefit there. Next up, we have the Divine Light spell. Sets the warm status and decreases target's willpower and bodybuilding within the spell's area of effect. So 100% chance to set warm status for 3 turns, 100% chance to set struck by Divine Light for 3 turns. So this actually is it doesn't do any damage, but it does have a little like flair to it when it allows you to decrease your opponent's resistances to crowd control. So if you're able to get your knight character or your tank character, damage first, then you're able to or not damage first, but you're able to use this spell specifically, then your other characters CC will basically 100% every single time. So I think in that aspect, it's pretty good. So I would put it in the B tier simply because it doesn't have a really great range. And if you're wanting somebody who can lower resistances, it's probably Witchcraft that will be better suited for that than the Man at Arms character. But this is a great thing to do if you don't have a Witchcraft character, and it will make crowd controlling your opponents way easier in that regard. So that's where I would put Divine Light. Next up, we have the Encourage spell. So encourage allies around you. What that does is it gives encourage boost target strength, dexterity, intelligence, and constitution stats by 1. I will put this one in the A tier, no matter if you're running a damage specific build or you're running a tank specific build. It is extremely nice to give your party, because it has a really massive range, to give your party some extra health, give your party extra damage, give your party extra percentages, because as it raises the intelligence, extra percentages on the chance of crowd controlling the enemy encounter. I think for that specific reason, this is extremely, extremely good. Next up, we have the Helping Hand spell, which is here, the little hand symbol. Help a knocked down ally up or pat out a burning one. Honestly, I don't really see any crazy uses for this. Not often are you getting, I guess, not often are you really getting knocked down. I guess it's very situational. Like if you're, say there's a frozen battlefield that you're on and you're trying to run across, your character slipped, this would be nice to get them back up. It has a decent sized range on it, so I would put this one in the B tier. It doesn't do any damage, so this depends on your build style. If it's going for tank, it could be maybe a little more useful because you're able to kind of make sure the rest of your party is able to do damage. If it is, damage deal, maybe it's not the most useful because you're just trying to keep swinging and just, depleting your opponent's health bar and things like that. So I'll put this one in the B tier for that specific reason. Next up, we have the Melee Defensive Stance. What this spell does, it improves defense at the cost of damage, and this is a toggle stance, so you can go ahead and pick this or have this specific stance activated at any time. It costs 0 action points. What it does, though, for 2 turns, you have minus 15% damage and plus 20 in your armor rating. I would actually put this in the A tier. It's really good for tanks, but the fact that you could say, for example, you rush in with your your Man at Arms character and their damage dealer. Well, you dealt all your damage. You can go ahead and just switch this stance so they gain armor as your opponents are making their turn. So it's actually really useful to just be able to toggle all of those stances that you have. So I will put this one in the A tier. And the next one is the Melee Power stance, which is this one. Increase both the damage of your melee attacks and your movement speed at the cost of your precision. So 20% increased damage, 20% increased movement speed, minus 20% chance to hit. So I actually think this one is extremely good too. So I would put this one in the A tier. I might even put this one in the S tier because of how much of an importance movement speed is for Man at Arms characters. The further you're able to move, especially when you're wearing heavy armor, um, you're not going to be able to get kited by the enemy encounter. You can just walk to them, and, have your attack of opportunity talent if that's something that you want. But you could really get your character in the thick of things way easier than it would be if you did not have this stance toggled. But you can alternate these ones, which is a great benefit for the man at arms. You can really kind of pick and choose at any given moment what stance that you want to help your character deal a ton of damage or maybe tank a little bit more. So I think this one specifically is S tier. Next up, we have the Adept spell. So that was all of the novice spells. You'll see them right there on the screen when they pop up as I'm talking about it. Next up, we have the Barbed Wire, which is this one here. It's the little barbed wire. Reflect melee damage inflicted upon you at the cost of your chance to hit. So obviously, this is good, maybe even great for the tank specific character. It does not seem super great for the attack damage character because attack damage, or when you're trying to deal a ton of damage, you don't necessarily want to be attacked. But if you're the tank, you obviously want to be attacked. So it it lowers your chance to hit by 25%. Um, and they'll take 50% of the damage they deal to you reflected back to them specifically. I think it would be B tier. I want to put it maybe a little higher, but B tier because it just depends if you're wanting to go taunt or if you wanted to go tank or if you wanted to go damage dealer. This really synergizes with taunt. You can use this, boom, next turn use taunt, or maybe use taunt and then barbed wire, or if you can do both in the same turn, go ahead and do that, and then all of the enemies attack you and they essentially kill themselves. So that's a great use of that spell in conjunction with some of the other spells with Man at Arms. Next up, we have the crippling blow. So cripple a target deals 130% weapon crushing damage. So what cripple does, it has a negative impact on target's movement and action points. So I would say this is soft CC. It doesn't actually delete their turn, but it just reduces what they can do on their turn. Because of that, I would give it an A. It does a lot of damage. It's nice in that aspect, and it has that added soft crowd control component with it. So definitely put this in the A tier. Next up, and I'll be honest, I haven't really used this one specifically, the Elemental Tortoise. If you've seen any of my builds, I really don't like the Elemental shields or stances or whatever. I just don't find them useful. I would rather use something else or maybe just kill the enemy, before I have to even use this specific stance. So this is a stance. Improve elemental resistances, but movement is slowed. And it does require a shield. So this would be specifically for a tank character. I'm going to put this one in the D tier. Like I said, I really don't find spells like this useful when I'm playing Divinity Original Sin, any of the playthroughs that I've done. Next up, we have the Rage. So this one is specifically for the damage dealer class. So with the damage dealer class, I would actually put this one in the S tier. What it does is enter an enraged state. And let me kind of read through what that means exactly. Rage decreases your armor and your chance to hit, but you do more damage and have a higher critical chance. Here's the increase in the damage. 50%. So if you're doing 100 damage typically, you'll be doing 150 damage. That is a massive buff. And as you get later on into the game, your damage scales really, really, really high. And then there's things that you can use to combine, like maybe the Farseer with the Marksman. It gives you increase, chance to hit, or maybe you use Survivor's Karma and things like that. Definitely think Rage is a must. It increases your critical chance by 2%. Your chance to hit is minus 25%, and your armor is minus 20%. So when you enter this, you're trying to go for the killing blow typically. But it's definitely S tier for the damage deal spell. So with taunt, here is taunt right there. Taunt all enemies within 8 meters around you so that they want to attack you. So the only thing I will say with taunt, it is extremely great spell combined with barbed wire. The fact that it is 8 meters is not putting it in S tier. The fact that it is in 8 meter range means you're not going to be able to get the entire encounter, which sucks. You want the entire encounter to attack you when you're using taunt. Um, like if it was 15-meter range, which is typically like your furthest reaching spells that you have, then this would be S tier, but it's A tier because it just has a short, basically half of that. So that's taunt there. Next up is the whirlwind spell, and this will actually round out our adept spells. What this does is perform a whirlwind attack, hitting enemies around you for 120% weapon slashing damage. This does have a very small radius. However, when say you can combine this with the freaking tank character too. Um, it does so much damage. It's kind of like the marksman's ricochet or spells like that essentially. So I would put it in the A tier. If it had a wider range, definitely would be higher. But because it's up close and personal, and the range is like just a tiny little circle, uh, it does suffer from that aspect. But you can hit maybe 3, 4 people with it, especially if you've taunted them before, or if you've knocked them down. You kind of position yourself to where you can hit the most enemies. It does a considerable amount of damage, and you can critical strike off of it too, which is really cool. So that's the adept spells. Last up, we have the master spells, and there's only 2 of them, so you have to take both of them. So for the master spell, you have flurry. Attack with a flurry of your main weapon and deal 100% weapon damage each strike. The damage dealt depends on your main weapon's damage rating. This is what you're able to. It's like the keep saying marksman, but it's like the marksman's arrow spray, the 45-degree arrow spray. It's really what you're wanting to use to just completely eliminate an enemy out of the fight, especially when you can critical strike with these, and the fact that it does 100% damage compared to like 75% or 50% for every single time it hits. This is really good at dealing a ton of damage, which is great. So we'll put flurry up there. And then last up, we'll do the shackles of pain. Make a target that will receive all of the damage you receive. This is so good for the tank class, and it's also S tier. So as you see, the fighter has a lot of S tiers. In my opinion, they're one of the most versatile role. You can really use them for kind of anything that you need. They can be your front line. Well, they're all both going to be your front line, but one of them can tank a ton of damage. They can deal a ton of damage. It also helps with atomization, because in the game there's a finite number of like resources that you can get, and experience that you can get. So if you have a diverse party, then you're able to really maximize the amount of loot that's dropped for you. So if you have a two-handed fighter compared to a one-handed, sword and shield fighter, they won't run into taking each other's gear as often as if say you had like 4 fighters who had one sword, one shield, things like that. And I guess that's common sense. So this would be the tier list. I'm going to go ahead and actually rank where I would, which ones I would include in my generic spell build for the Man at Arms class. We're gonna go with the novice first. So the novice, you can have 6, a total of 6. So let's see. There's battering ram, crushing fist, absolutely. Definitely gonna want power stance right here. Encourage, I do want 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's 8 total, so you actually do have to make a decision on. No, this is the rage one. You actually do have to make a decision about which one you specifically want. I do think cure wounds is a good one to have. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's kind of like your get out of crap button. Um, so there's divine light, helping hand, and defensive stance. I would actually include the defensive stance personally. The fact that you can alternate, say if you're in a bad position, you can go ahead, pop this on, wait until your next turn. If you ran out of action points, Definitely useful in that aspect. So we're going to leave the helping hand and the divine light behind. Those ones are lost in the wind. Next up, we have the adept. So you can include 4 adept spells. There's a total of 6 of them. So we're going to include whirlwind. We're going to include crippling blow. We're going to include rage if you're going for damage. Um, which let's just say you're going for damage for this example. And we're going to include. Oh, this one's actually hard. Probably barbed wire. If you needed to pick one, if you're going for damage, probably barbed wire. If you aren't going for damage for your adept spells, you're going to want to take. Um, let's do this. Yeah, not that one. This one. There we go. That's what you would take if you were going for defense or you're a tank specific character. But we're going for damage, big damage all the time, every day. Yeah, barbed wire is up there. Cool. And then last up is the master, and you obviously can only pick 2 master spells. So there you go. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like and comment in the comment section if you agree or don't agree with my list, and tell me why. We can have a great discussion related to it. And also subscribe to the channel. Like I said, we have big plans for Baldur's Gate 3. It's a very hyped up video game, and I personally love Larian Studios because they remind me of a developer who really cares about their audience. So without further ado, I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and thank you so much for watching. Ben's out. Peace.